Welcome to Trailhead, everyone, and welcome to Boise Pitch Night. My name is Tiam Rastegar. I'm the Executive Director here at Trailhead. We are on a relentless mission to accelerate startup activity right here in Boise. Startups and entrepreneurs generally need access to four things, generally speaking. They need access to mentorship, talent, markets, and capital. And capital is the reason we are all here tonight. Boise Pitch Night is designed to facilitate investments placed into startups. And on the capital note, I'm extremely excited to introduce our keynote for tonight. Jack Boren, Investment Director with Epic Ventures. Epic Ventures is a Salt Lake City-based venture capital firm that is actively investing in Boise companies. Jack made the trip all the way here from Salt Lake just to be with us tonight. So on that note, please give him a warm welcome. We'll hear from Jack.
Yeah, if we have one, that'd be great. Thank you, Tiam. You're too kind. It's always a pleasure to get back up here to Boise. I'm a Boise native. I grew up here. I went to Roosevelt Elementary School, North Junior High School, and Boise High School. As Tiam mentioned, I'm with Epic Ventures. Epic Ventures is a 25-year-old. How do we? Now we're moving. Yeah, here we go. Epic Ventures is a 25-year-old venture capital firm focused on early stage based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. We were founded in a bit of a collaboration between Zions Bank and a big Bay Area firm, Draper Fisher Jurvetson, with the idea that, now bear with me, because at the time, the Salt Lake tech ecosystem was not that interesting, but the idea was that on the backs of WordPerfect and Novell, entrepreneurs would spin out of those companies, start their own businesses, and we could support them, help them grow, and eventually have a lot of success with it. Fast forward to today, 20-ish years, 25 years later, we've invested $366 million. The multiplier on that, our co-investors have put in an additional $6.6 billion into our businesses, 150 different investments, 11,000 active jobs. What I mean by that is that's like our existing portfolio or companies like Ancestry.com that are still around on their own. We estimate about 30,000 jobs created that are elsewhere, right? Meaning, for example, we invested in a company that sold to EMC when they were 10 employees, and last year there were 1,000 employees in Utah in that specific unit. So what I'm getting at is massive multiplier of money. And we've had a lot of success we've been fortunate to have a lot of success along the way. As I mentioned, early stage focus for Epic Ventures. This is a very small presentation, I apologize. But essentially what I'm getting at here is Epic is focused on young but not too young businesses. These are companies that have already achieved some sort of product market fit. They have teams that we'd be willing to back. They've been there before. Experienced groups, and they just need help scaling their organizations, right? Building out a sales team, paying to ramp up sales, marketing, et cetera. And that's where we come in. So you'll see us kind of sitting between seed and late stage investors. We do a little bit of seed still, and we do some Series B as well. But our bread and butter is somewhere between a $2 and $3 million check into a company doing somewhere in the range of $1 to $3 million a year in revenue. We are almost exclusively enterprise software investors. That means we're investing in security, healthcare tech, financial technologies, general business applications. You'll see some scattered interest in consumer, big data, AI storage, a little bit of some random tangents, but at our core, where we're the most helpful for you guys is if you are selling B2B software. We have great networks, advisors, potential hires that can help you scale your business. This is a terrible presentation. I apologize, but brief geographical distribution, a lot in Utah, a little in California, 2 in Idaho, 4 in Oregon. We kind of think of ourselves as mountain and West Coast investors. Come on. And one of the biggest things we bring to the table at Epic is an extensive capital network. While we lead or participate in your Series A, what we're essentially doing is helping you get to the next level and introducing you to the next level of financing as well. So if you look across the board, these are just a couple of names. We've worked with hundreds of funds throughout our existence. pretty much any brand name fund we've co-invested with in the past, and we can get you an introduction to. So one of our biggest value adds is as you go for that Series B stage of investment or later, we call up some of our friends and say, hey, this is killer business, you should take a look. And hopefully we can help you secure that capital. Boop. Brief bragging slide. Just in the last 12 years since 2007, we've exited 40 businesses. Of those, 4 of them have been IPOs. We have 2 on the block right now. Health Catalyst, which should go soon. They just released their S1, and Exogen Diagnostics as well. So great expertise as you scale your business to the point where you're ready to exit. We can help with some of the introductions to corporate development groups and M&A activity. And we certainly know all the bankers that can help you take your business public. Obviously, that's way down the road. Anyway, that's just short on us as a general fund. Idaho's been a focus for the firm for some time. We have investors up here. We've had people at events for a while. I joined Epic about 6 years ago. And one of my mandates was to continue to build that out and to really double down our focus. So what you'll see is since 2014, we've invested $7.3 million into companies in the state. Actively, we have about 105, we call them jobs created, but call them employees. At startups we're working with. And one of the things I'm really proud of on the side is this network of Boise natives that have moved on to other places. So I'm going to talk about 2 right here. First, Chris Klomp. Chris Klomp is a Boise high grad, went to BYU, went to Bain, went to Stanford. He now has a business called Collective Medical Technologies that I'm an investor in Salt Lake. And Chris is a Boise advocate, somebody that any of you could reach out to for advice, insights, connections, et cetera, loves the ecosystem. And that's the type of individual we like to support tangentially to our core Idaho investments. Another one is Brett Keller here, the Priceline CEO. He's one of our advisors. Brett's an Idaho native, actively helping us with some of our portfolio companies and would love to engage with Boise startups. And then I have a picture of Faisal up here as well. Back to advisors. Of our advisors, obviously you see a bunch of big names up here. When we think about an advisory board, when you take investment from Epic, we connect you to an interesting group of individuals that can help you think about how to scale your business. These are people at Oracle, Red Hat, Google, that are in many cases have built their own companies, have sold their own companies, and can provide a unique level of insight. I've circled 3 of them here that have unique Boise connections. Obviously, Brett Keller, as I mentioned, Tommy Alquist, and selfishly, my father joined this year as well from Clearwater Analytics. So what we're looking for are people that can plug into you, that you can plug into, and really leverage their insights advice. So again, as you think about holistically what it's like to work with Epic, think through access to insight around building, scaling your business, help with key hires. Think through access to the next level of capital, access to people that can help you think about how to eventually exit your company, how to monetize all your hard work, and a key team of advisors that you can have access to think about how to do all these things. So that's the short on us. I wanted to spend a little bit of time after walking you through Epic. To talk about a couple of key things I like to think about with raising capital. In chatting with TM, one of the things we came to was, not only talk about Epic and what we can do, but give some key thoughts, advice around positioning yourself for a fundraise. Obviously, I'm excited about the Boise ecosystem. There are a variety of people out there that are, but in the grand scheme of things, venture capital dollars in Idaho are few and far between. As somebody in this kind of a, let's call it, in some ways an overlooked state for startups, you have to be very scrappy about how you think about your fundraising process. So a couple of things I want to chat through today. And first and foremost, as you go out to raise for your business, this idea of setting the stage and being deliberate. This is going to shock some of you. Many of you come to me prepared, or other investors very prepared. But oftentimes, when I take a pitch from somebody, they have a pitch deck that says, hey, I need to raise $5 million. It's going to get me to $5 million in revenue. Here's my market. And there's not a lot of thought behind it past that. Business might not be totally formed. They might not have a legal entity set up. They might not have a good board of advisors. They might not have a banking relationship. It's shocking some of the key things that many of us would think to put in place that really aren't. And these are key because as you think about scaling your business, not only do you want to get your advisors, your legal team, and your banking relationships right for just general, building your business, but they factor in heavily to the fundraise process as well. I want to talk about each one of these. When you think about your advisory board, people that you can take to lunch, ask for their advice, might even want to invest in your business, be deliberate in picking people that have interesting connections in the financial ecosystem, in the venture capital ecosystem. Look for people that are advisors at venture funds, are affiliated with venture-backed startups. Maybe they themselves are management at interesting growth stage businesses in the area. Actively seek out people that not only have been there and done that, but can connect you to people that could eventually help you scale your business. The next one I want to touch on is legal work. And I think this is one thing that can be messed up very badly at the early stage of a business. There are plenty of lawyers out there you can work with, plenty of opportunities to help find people that will help you form your business. But at an early stage, you want to pick somebody that's done a high volume of startup formation documents, fundraising documents, et cetera. Two names to note here. There are obviously a variety here you can find, but two that immediately come to mind for me are Melanie Rubaki's team at Perkins Coie and Allison Johnson's team at Holland and Hart. These are people that not only have done a high volume of transactions, so they'll get your documents right, but on top of that, they're going to give you access to investors. I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but if you're getting your docs done by Allison Johnson, Allison can call up 5 or 6 venture capitalists and say, hey, this company just formed, this killer entrepreneur, interesting business idea, you should get them on your radar. And that means a lot to me coming from Allison, a lot more than it would just coming from the CEO of that business. And the last thing I'm going to say is just about banks. It's the exact same idea as a lawyer. There are a variety of banks you can work with in the area. Typically, when a startup, gets a banking relationship, they're just looking for whatever is cheapest and lowest friction. I'm going to put in a bit of a shameless plug for Silicon Valley Bank here. Kyle Swan, who manages the area, isn't here today, so I won't get a lot of personal benefits from putting in my shameless plug. But when you work with somebody that has a lot of expertise in banking startups, not only do you get somebody that's easy to work with, been there, done that, but again, like with the lawyers, you're getting a group that has access to a lot of venture capitalists, like myself. And just to cite Kyle one more time, Kyle is again, he's the director over Boise for Silicon Valley Bank. And if Kyle calls me up and says, hey, there's this business in Boise that you need to talk to, I will absolutely talk to that business. I'll take the time to think through their pitch, et cetera, et cetera. It means a lot coming from those individuals. So when I say setting the stage, I'm talking about often overlooked aspects of your business, plugging in individuals that can have broad network effects later on, early in the life cycle of the company. How am I doing for time? Good. I'll try and blow through the rest of this, and we can open it up for a little bit of questions. Next, this should seem very rudimentary, but building a compelling pitch. 3 things I want to talk about: beginning with the end in mind, focusing on why you're uniquely qualified, in details. And I'll focus most on beginning with the end in mind. Seems intuitive, right? Why do you want to raise capital? You want to scale your business, you want to expand, you want to address new product opportunities, bring on new salespeople, et cetera. Have specific milestones for the next fundraise, next whatever it is in your business, right? So if you're coming to me for Series A capital, I want to talk about your Series B. What does your company look like at that time? What are you building towards? What's the timeline it takes to get to that level of revenue, of employees? Who do you need to hire? How much are they going to cost? Both in salary and in equity, by the way. Where's your product deficient and where do you need to build it out? Et cetera, et cetera. You're setting the stage. You're thinking through that next milestone that we can all collectively work towards together. The next, focus on why you're uniquely qualified. I think one of the biggest problems with starting a company is starting it out of your domain expertise. And what I mean by that is if you're spinning out of Clearwater Analytics, don't start a marketing tech business, right? Unless you were in the marketing department in Clearwater Analytics. Start a financial technology business, or something where you have some unique expertise. If you're spinning out Albertsons, it should be a food tech business, right? Think through where you have a competitive advantage and be able to come to me and talk through, convince me with your pedigree why that is in fact the case. And if you don't, go get some experience, right? Take a couple of years and work at one of the high-growth startups in the area and try and identify a problem that you're then going to be uniquely qualified to address. Finally, details. We spend a ton of time as Series A investors dissecting why, in fact, you should or should not be able to meet the goals that you present to us, right? If you want to scale your revenues from $1 million this year to $2 or $3 million next year, or maybe you're at 100,000 this year and you want to get to $1 million, well, what does that mean? Who do you need to hire? How long do they need to ramp to be fully effective and efficient? What are they going to cost? What can their actual level of productivity be? Can a sales rep carry a quota of $1 million? And if so, how long is it going to take to ramp them up to that? Where are you going to hire them from? Right? Do you need to hire them in market? What specific companies can you recruit from? These are things we really spend time on, because as you raise a Series A and you get into that track of preparing, growing towards your Series B, we are on a strict timeline and beholden to the Series B investors who want to see a specific style of growth. So again, details, that sales anecdote goes for everything, marketing, product, et cetera. And then the last thing I want to talk about is focusing on the right parties. And still casting a wide net. Not a lot of companies, venture capital companies, invest in early stage Boise businesses. There just aren't a lot, right? It's for a variety of reasons. They've either never been here, they're too busy in the cities they're at, whatever. But there are VCs out there that have some sort of unique connection to Boise, or unique connection to your industry, or your stage, whatever, that you can tap into and really focus in on. So I'm a good example of that at Epic, right? I'm obviously a Boise native. I'm looking for more of these businesses. I'd love to find an excuse to live up here full time. So I'm the right person to talk to there. There's a guy named Len Jordan at Madrona Venture Partners, Boise native, went to school here. That's the kind of person you want to try and identify, right? There are other guys, in a variety of different venture funds out there. But what I'm getting at is, try and identify people that are, have some interest in your space, or in Boise. The next on top of that is focus on people that have an interest in your industry, right? All of us on our website talk about the kind of deals that we do. And then if you look at our portfolio, you can kind of back into in detail what kind of businesses we invest in. So with a little bit of work, you can focus in on not only the right firms to work with, but the right individuals, right? A good example of that is if you reached out to me at Epic Ventures to talk about a financial technology business, I would pass you right on to Ryan Hemingway, who spends all his time in that. So focus, target specific people. That's my number 2 here. The next is get direct introductions. If you reach out to me cold or you call me at the office, we get so many of those that we don't spend time on them. Reach out through your advisory board, reach out through your lawyer, through your bank, people that have connections to us as a venture firm. When we get those kind of first-person introductions, they mean the world to us. As I mentioned earlier, if you get an intro from Kyle Swan to me, I'm much more likely to take it seriously than from other individuals. And that's a volume issue, right? We see thousands of deals a year. We're trying to find ways to quickly de-risk them. So, if Kyle passes a deal towards me, I can assume that Kyle himself thinks it's interesting. And that's just one little box to check, right? No, somebody else thinks it's great. Somebody that I trust thinks it's a great business, right? And then last thing, that should be a number 4, but be nice to analysts. We have, on any given day, somewhere between 10 and 20 analysts on our staff. They work directly for me. Their job is to reach out to you and hear about your businesses. They want to hear an update. They want to know what's going on. And then they put that into our CRM so I can see it. This gets back to that, thousands of deals that we see each year. Last year it was 2,500 that we talked to directly. We're trying to find ways to get all that information in and to find some way to provide value for you guys, even if we don't invest in your businesses. So I have a variety of people on my staff that are calling your companies, trying to figure out what you're up to, see if there's a way to help out, and reporting that back to me. And it's super poor form when they're not treated well. It's true analysts don't lead deals, but they can certainly block them, right, if they have a bad experience. And while we do this, all the big Bay Area firms have a robust analyst program as well that does the exact same thing. So that's a couple of just things to be thinking through, obviously outside the norm from what you might hear about putting together a pitch deck. Some of it you may have heard before, but I thought it'd be interesting to focus in on each of these ones. I'm a huge believer in the Boise ecosystem. I think particularly with the interesting exits that have occurred here in the last 3 or 4 years, you point to T-Sheets, Truckstop.com, Clearwater, a couple on deck like Cradlepoint, right? That's a growing, successful business. You'll start to see people spinning out of these companies with interesting, innovative ideas, and that's what I get most excited about here. People that have been trained at some highly quality businesses and are ready to take that and get after it. So I think we're in an interesting position to grow and have success, and I'm excited to be investing here. So, anyway, happy to take any questions, and if we're out of time, I'm happy to pass it along as well.
I think we can take a couple of questions.
Anybody? Right here.
Is there anything that you think is advantageous about the Boise ecosystem from an investment perspective or from a business growth perspective of startups?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. This is going to sound weird. The question was, do I think there's anything advantageous about the Boise ecosystem for startups in general? I'm sure there are a variety of different answers to this. If I were to point to one, this is going to sound weird and counterintuitive, it's lack of access to capital.
I agree with that one.
Love it. You look at the, would you like to elaborate?
No, I'd like you to.
Oh, awesome. No, good. I love it. So you look at the Bay Area and the type of investment that goes on over there. I'll just give you an anecdote really quick. I looked at a deal last year that had raised $20 million and had about $1 million in service revenue and was asking for a $40 million pre-money valuation for me. Now, if you're getting into this, like crazy numbers, right? And they were able to raise another $20 million, by the way, and it's just kind of layering on top of expectations around a specific team. Great for the company, right? Great to be able to raise that kind of money. I don't know how you build a lasting business off of just throwing a bunch of cash at a problem, right? I think lack of access to capital in Boise has required certain entrepreneurs to be extremely disciplined about how they use their capital, to be extremely capital efficient, and to build inherently profitable businesses. And while those companies tend to be slightly slower growth, some of the local ones here were never over 100% year over year. Over a period of 7, 8, 9, 10 years, maybe 15 years, you build a type of business that then commands a serious multiple off their revenue because it's a business that inherently works, right? It's profitable, it's growing profitably, it's at scale. I think it makes it harder for people to just start up a ton of businesses, but it makes it better for an ecosystem that can build real long-lasting businesses. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Awesome. Way in the back.
Where do your analysts go to find ideas, their next recommendation to you, their next pitch to you? Are they finding it in TechCrunch? Are they just hitting the street? Where are they generating ideas?
Awesome question. Just to reiterate, the question is, where do my analysts generate ideas for investment opportunities? It's a variety of things. One, we buy a ton of data. We have a couple of data vendors. We use groups like PitchBook, Traction. We've evaluated others as well. Big lists of companies, URLs. They spend a lot of time pouring through the websites. They each get a focus, be it geography or industry, and they're expected to understand who the players are in there and to follow some of those trends. They talk to a lot of people at growth stage businesses and mature businesses. And I do this as well. We all, all of us are hunters at Epic, right? So we all spend a lot of time talking to people that might have interesting ideation. And that's, talking to, upper mid and senior level talent at, somebody like Clearwater Analytics, right? About what's going on, what's new, what's interesting, what are they worried about. Crunchbase is an interesting platform in that there's a lot of user-generated data on there. I found it to often be inaccurate and often be incomplete. For really early stage ideation, Traction has a lot of great companies in there. That's TRACXN. It's not a great research platform. It's just a good database of companies. And then, lastly, they cold call, right? So they're cold calling into a lot of you, cold emailing. And on the phone, they ask your opinions, right? Like, what do you think is interesting, right? And that kind of goes into our process as well. Did I answer it? Yeah. Awesome. Probably one more, TM, is that? Yeah, we're done? One more. Right here.
Maybe the inverse of Dom's question. What's a disadvantage that you see in the Boise marketplace or something that you can see holding back entrepreneurs here?
It's an awesome question, and I would quickly point to lack of a very deep bench for scaling businesses, right? For our companies in Salt Lake, we're kind of now getting to this point, and certainly in the Bay Area when we've made investments. When you want to take a company from 5 to 10 million in revenue, well, let's say from 0 to 5, it's a completely different skill set from taking a company from 5 to 10, and then from 10 to 20 to 50 to whatever, right? And the best outcomes in our ecosystem require that level of talent to come in. And there's just not enough volume of that here yet. Now, the flip side of that is, there aren't enough companies that really need that here yet. But if I'm looking at anything that's concerning, it's a lack of that bench. The other thing is there isn't, if you're a unique business in Boise, like Clearwater's a great example of this because it's a financial accounting business, right? Every time they hire a salesperson, a developer, they have to train them to be accountants, right? There isn't a deep bench of industry experts that you can just slot into roles. Does that make sense? It makes it slower to hire, slower to train, et cetera. We're probably out of time. We got to cut it. Norris, we can chat after. But guys, I sincerely appreciate this opportunity. Good luck with your businesses, and please reach out. My email is just first name, Jack, @epicvc.com. Thanks.